By 7/1000ths of a second ahead of the Pro Sport Performance Porsche Cayman, or one of several from that mark, and that was Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Wiebahn was one of the joint champions last year with Peter Terting, and Nikolai Moller-Madsen, also racing with the Pro Sport Performance team last year, ended up third overall, so look out for them challenging. And also the Academy Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage will be out there to see what it can do. Third fastest in free practice, 0.15 of a second down. Now the circuit, 4.226 kilometres, and in qualifying it's absolutely vital to get in a quick lap, but you have to work your space. There is the number 75 car, one of two Porsche 911s that are likely to be right at the sharp end. The Porsche Cayman, we're looking at one of the Caymans there, also proving increasingly wieldy in GT4 competition, but lots of manufacturers now starting to bring their cars out to come and play as this global formula spreads. That's Jörg Wiebahn, Nikolai Moller-Madsen in the number 91 Cayman. We saw this bouncing over the curbs in the nicest possible way. The Cayman, a very, very well balanced racing car indeed. He's trying to get past one of the slower Caymans there to make his space on the circuit, and certainly 91 managed to do just that. And 91 is Jörg Wiebahn. So we have to wait until the first flying laps are issued. You can see the Cayman he passed just trying to weave around and get some heat into his tyres, but Jörg knows these cars very well indeed, run beautifully by Pro Sport Performance, and he doesn't need too long to get to grips with the car. He's going to try and stick in, while he has clear track underneath him, stick in a lap time that will be good for pole position. But we have 45 minutes of qualifying for this, the GT4 European Series Northern Cup. 15 minutes, followed by 10, followed by 15. Short breaks in between, but Wiebahn setting the best overall first sector. Oh, it's actually Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Sorry, I was given the other driver on the timing screen, now it's flipped over. So it's Nikolai Moller-Madsen, Danish racer, racing with the German Jörg Wiebahn, and knew this car from last year, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, when he was paired with Andreas Patzelt, finished third overall. But clear track, quite happy with the performance of the car, stays just about enough of two wheels on the circuit, not to be done for running too wide. Turns 6 and 16 with the corners, but particularly turn 6 onto the back straight, but the first of three straights was the corner in which the stewards were increasingly concerned about drivers going out in the other championships. But Nikolai Moller-Madsen, 1 minute 43.994 seconds. That was a very good outlap, in fact faster than the best time set in free practice number 2. Second fastest car, number 92, another Pro Sport Performance racer there with Jan Kasperlik, I think, entered in that, and he was at the sharp end in the championship in previous years. Ecris Motorsport run their own BMWs, the M4s, and they were the second team in the Teams Championship last year. Racing Team Holland by Ecris Motorsport. Slightly different livery, less orange on it this year, less Dutch racing orange. That's number 8, which is Max Kerbolt and Ricardo van der Ende. Just waiting for them to set their first flying lap, haven't got round to completing. As you can see, plenty of traffic, but what a success story for Max Brahms and his crew running the GT4 European Series, to be able to split it into a Northern European Championship and a Southern European Championship. And whereas last year they had fields just about touching 30, now they've got 33 alone for the Northern Cup. So some teams will be doing both the Southern Cup and the Northern Cup, but right now, to kick off the 2017 season, in this first qualifying session, first race of course this evening starting at 8 o'clock, and then another race tomorrow afternoon starting at 5 to 3 Italian local time. So a very, very busy agenda, and it's fantastic to see the paddock here so stuffed full of race transporters, lots of different shapes and sizes of cars with single seaters on the support programme as well. 33 McLaren getting in on the act, getting a bit of move on. That's the Bullet Racing and Race team, Stephen Patrick and Andy Merrick. You think that's possibly Andy Merrick at the wheel. 69 just goes top of the timing screens. That's Daniel Rhymes, Peter Terting. There's a name, of course, one of the champions last year. Racing this year for Terting's Muskens Racing. He's left Pro Sport Performance. But look, these three very quick cars getting stuck in. Max Kerbolt there, we said he hadn't set a time. Well, that was good enough for 8th place for him, but times starting to change. 69 now top of the times again. Daniel Rhymes listed as being the fastest driver in that Porsche Cayman. 0.2 of a second precisely on top. Now the Bullet Racing entry number 33 with none other than David Price, who used to run McLaren F1s and F1 GTRs back in the FIA GT Championship when McLaren decided to go sports car racing back in the 90s, and he's helping the Bullet Racing crew, Stephen Patrick and Andy Merrick, and certainly skeetering around there trying to get the grip, but fifth fastest so far for that number 33 McLaren. You might notice the different body shape. That's the 570Z McLaren for you to get used to. But in GT4 form, that's looking quite a popular car. Of course, it's the 650S McLaren that races in the main Blancpain GT series, but for GT4 it's the 570S that represents the mark from Woking. Sun getting increasingly bright. We had a slightly cloudy period after lunch, but that's burning off, so track conditions will be different from when they went out. It was very nice and warm spring sunshine this morning. It cooled off a bit, the humidity's dropping away, but nothing seems to be affecting Stephen Patrick too badly. In fact, he set his fastest first sector of the lap and then the fastest overall sector, and he's only got 2 corners to go to complete the lap, so he could well be going up towards pole position. He's 1.1 seconds down. He's got a lot of traffic ahead. Very, very wide over the curbing there through turn 15. He's up to turn 16 now. This is a corner where everybody's watching for too much travel over the curves. That's fine. He's got a little bit of a toe from one of the KTM crossbows. Has he wrecked his lap with that run out over the curb? Gosh, he stays fifth, but he found 0.2 of a second, so that middle sector of the lap is incredibly promising. If that was the fastest of everybody, and he's still 0.946 of a second off pole. New car at the top, the target keeps moving, and it's Pavel Lefterov, the Bulgarian racer, showing his Porsche Cayman for the RN Vision STS team, goes top by 0.269 of a second from number 9 Luke Brahms, father of the series organiser Matt Brahms. His 570S McLaren is now second fastest. The Chodson brothers, they are big fans of Maseratis, and at the moment not in the top 10, in fact somewhat down the order, but they're back this season. The number 50 entry, Scooter Viorba, of course, they have quite a few. That's Piotr Chodson and Anthony Chodson in their Gran Turismo GT4. Maserati, one of the best sounding cars in the field, it must be said. Wonderful rumble. But still quite early in their sequence in terms of setting super fast lap times, just coming around the final corner. Will that move them into the top 20? Not yet, just waiting for that line to be crossed. And it hasn't, and already we've got cars 91 and 33 lap time cancelled for exceeding track limits. So that's the Stephen Patrick McLaren we were looking at earlier. They've had that lap time cancelled, and number 91, which is Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Moller-Madsen, that set the pace very early on. Reinhard Koffler rocketing around to be 8th fastest in the KTM crossbows. 8 of these entered in the championship. They've been big supporters, and obviously the outcome, if you do really well, you may get promoted up towards the main championship, as Marco Helis Stakangas and Caitlin Wood have, now racing a Lamborghini Gallardo in the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. So there is a target for all of them, these rising stars under the Writer Scholarship System. Johnny Cecotto, except it's not even Johnny Cecotto Jr., it's Jonathan Cecotto, brother of Johnny Cecotto Jr. and son, no doubt, well, definitely of multiple world motorbike champion in the early 70s, Johnny Cecotto, who of course crossed over, raced touring cars successfully in Germany, and raced until he injured a leg at Brands Hatch in Formula One. So one of the young drivers coming through the system and joining the KTM crossbow fielded teams, all run under the Writer Rising Stars scheme. There, Pavel Lefterov, we mentioned him top of the time charts. There he is in his Porsche Cayman. Top of the sheets from Luke Brahms, number 9, has just moved up in his McLaren to second place, and early on we had Daniel Rhymes setting a very quick time, and that's still good for third in his Porsche Cayman, shared with one of last year's joint champions, with Peter Terting. Number 9 looks great out there for Las Maras Racing. That's their first year with the McLaren, and obviously Luke Brahms doing a great job in that. Wonderful variety of manufacturers out here in GT4 racing, and quite a few body shapes still to come, but certainly the McLaren 570S seems to be gaining in popularity, launched for this year, and looking very good in GT4 form. Looking for quick times. Among the top handful, they seem to put in their best times and backed off a little bit. In fact, a couple of them come into the pits, including Nikolai Moller-Madsen. We saw him early in the session setting the pace in his Pro Sport Performance Porsche Cayman, and now lights flashing. Luke Brahms would like those in front of him just to stay a little bit wide so he can complete his lap without any delay. He's just got through the final sequence of corners, and his best lap. Well, that was 1.5 seconds down on the pace. You sort of feel he has to almost drop out of this grouping, drop back to be able to go for a time. Number 10, yet another car we haven't seen yet, another late entry in many ways. Finlay Hutchison and Saba Moore, Hungarian racer, joining the Scot in Keith Vescher's McLaren. So the Dutch team seem to be rather enjoying running the McLaren this year. Number 111, that's the sister car to the car that's on provisional pole. That's Gabriele Piana, Italian racer, and the Romanian Razvan Umbarescu, who is driving the other RN Vision car. This is the one, 111. And at the moment, it is Gabriele Piana at the wheel, and he's 6th quickest, so that is a good lap. But he's in a very slow first sector. Has he just come out of the pits? Yes, he has. That would explain that. One of the names on the chart there, just noticed on the screen, was Hunt, which is Freddie Hunt, son of the late 1976 world champion James Hunt. And he's out sharing with Stephen Licorice. He's sharing one of the many Porsche Caymans. This one run by Brookspeed International. They're just outside the top 20. Big trains of cars, 33 cars out here playing on the circuit. Number 22, good chance to see. Lovely livery, Allied Racing's Porsche Cayman. Timothy Stuckler and Jan Kasperlik sharing that. Always think it's a mark of a championship on the rise when the teams give so much consideration to the racing livery, and that's certainly very distinctive, both front and back. Well, you can see front and back of one of the Porsche Cayman sitting on the curbs, number 88. That's Wolfgang Risch and Peter Ebner. Wasn't in the top 10, it was tail end of the top 20, and 18th fastest overall, and clearly no improvement on this lap, but luckily no damage done, just sitting on the curbs. The marshals eventually said, okay, clear to go, and he's moved out of the way to the other side of the pit circuit, alongside the pit wall. Only change up at the top. Oh, well, here's a replay. Yeah, just went in, overcooked it on the way in, because you're still slightly unbalanced from going through turn 15. You've got it slightly wrong at 15 and then just couldn't get it balanced for 16. A very slow semi-loop and sitting straddling the curb. But that's a bigger off for the Sin R1. That's some distance off the side of the circuit, deep in the gravel. And that's the number 11 Sin R1, shared by brother and sister Bianca, or sister and brother Bianca Anton and Eduard Anton, teenagers from Romania, but that has gone very wide indeed. And car 71 is also listed as a spinner, which is the Scuderia Vioba course, one of many Maseratis entered by the team, Paolo Meloni and Massimiliano Tresoldi. So they've got it wrong, and now scattering gravel. As the circuit is rejoined comes the Sin. And the number 11 not in the top 20. Down towards the tail end of the lap, and that has brought out the red flag. Now, is that because gravel has been scattered on the track as it's rejoined, or...? Well, but it's very near the end of the first sector of qualifying. It's all right, they got that thrown, just the message had got down before the car rejoined, but it's away from its dangerous parking position. And that's the first part of qualifying completed. And at the moment, it's number 112, top of the charts. RN Vision STS is the team. And the driver was, to start with, it was Pavel Lefterov, then it was Jean-Louis Jasper in their Porsche Cayman, fastest by just over 1/4 of a second. And there is the Sin R1, doesn't look too gravelly, it has rejoined, is coming back to the pit lane. Of course, Q1 with 5 seconds on the clock, the red flag out, is not going to be restarted. But it's a 3-part qualifying session, and time of plenty for everybody still to get out there and show their hand in this GT4 European Series Northern Cup. First qualifying session of 2017. And almost all of the front runners now in the pits, and everybody else following them in. So, as I mentioned before, 15 minutes of qualifying, very short break, then 10-minute section of qualifying, short break, and then the final 15-minute shootout to really see who is going to end up on pole. There are the ties, Pavel Lefterov and Jean-Louis Jasper, fastest by 0.269 of a second from Duncan Heisman and Luke Brahms. Peter Terting and Daniel Rhymes, third fastest, and just over half a second down. Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Jörg Wiebahn, very strong pairing, fourth overall. Jonathan Chicotto and Lennart Marianek moving up into fifth place. And then car number 62, holding down sixth place, that was William Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones. Watch out for them in their Aston Martin. I think they're far from finished. And just to show how many cars we've got, we used 2 full timing screens and one more. 33 cars went out. But let's have a quick look at some of the greatest highlights of that first qualifying session. 15 minutes, action-packed from start to finish. pit lane was open. Matt Nicol-Jones and crew from Academy Motorsport putting their Aston Martin on the track. And here's the chassis, the car variety. Inside the 111 is the Porsche Cayman, and then right alongside it, the rather more boxy-looking KTM Crossbow. But the 570S McLarens were the ones that were really becoming popular for 2017. And drivers, as you can see, starting to use the circuit and a little bit more, which does seem to be the story of life at the circuit here in Misano. The Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli to give it its name, and there is a driver very much off the circuit in one of the McLarens. And we had a slow looping spin for the number 88 HP Racing Porsche Cayman. No damage done. A bigger spin and further off the circuit, deeper into the gravel there. The Sin R1, but no damage done. It got going. The red flag was brought out. A very brief hiatus here on the Adriatic coast of Italy, and the second part of a three-part qualifying session will be underway in a very, very short period of time. A quick chance for one driver to swap to another. There's one of the KTM Crossbows with their distinctive lift-up roof. That's the way the drivers get in. That's Stefan Cox, daughter of Peter Cox, who's over here to oversee her career. But of course, he's had such an illustrious career in sports car racing, and good to have Stephanie here competing at Misano. She spreads her wings on the international scene. Again, here's a chance to see the lift-up door, the entry to the cockpit of the KTM Crossbows. Mads Siljerhag, who was right at the sharp end of the championship last year. He was sharing in 2016 with Massey Dresser, and they finished second in the overall championship in their KTM Crossbow. So really an astonishing performance from them. As you can see, it's a line of KTM Crossbows as we work our way down the pit lane, all looking wonderfully different, great different liveries to be enjoyed by the photographers, the spectators, but most importantly, the commentators. Brett Sandberg, there's his helmet sitting on the back wing of that. He's come over from the States, competing in the championship, just showing the global spread of GT4 racing. Not the easiest car to get into in some ways, but then lowering yourself down rather than posting yourself sideways can be fine if you're relatively agile. That was number 44. We haven't seen too much of them. That's Marilyn Niederhauser and Naomi Schiff. Quite a few all-female driving crews here in the championship. And obviously, last year from the Reiter Young Stars system, we had Caitlin Wood, so being promoted up towards now competing in the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. Inevitably, with the Sin having rejoined across the circuit, having been deeped in the gravel, it's time for the marshals to work hard on their brushing skills just to get it off, because that's down towards the tail end of the circuit where turns 13 and 14 are very tight corners and a bit of gravel there, and you can see they'd be ending at the bottom of the shot if they were lucky in the deep gravel down at the hairpin towards the end of the lap. Quick corner, it's approach through turn 12, which is the top of your screen, and quite a few drivers have been getting a little bit wide there. Academy Motorsport bought the Aston Martin advantage, and that certainly is one expected to be up at the sharp end of the grid. Sixth fastest at the moment for William Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones. Driver change time now, and waiting for the session to get underway in a few minutes' time. You can hear the air hammers going, so the wheel guns mean tyre changes. There is the Sin that went off. That would need its tyres changing anyhow. Spinning through the gravel won't have done its previous set a lot of good at all. So the young Romanian racers on board there, or one of them at a time, sister and brother, Bianca and Edward Anton. And certainly all the teams after a European winter looking forward to these warm spring conditions at Misano. The Adriatic coast certainly been very good for the past few days, and hopefully it will last not just through tonight with the night race that takes us through to the close of play here at I think 11 o'clock we come to a conclusion tonight, which is for these GT Series European Northern Cup races. So they're doing it in daylight right now for qualifying, but at 10 o'clock their race starts, and that's when it gets serious. Bullet Racing and Race, Patrick and Andy Merrick, Stephen Patrick, Andy Merrick, they showed some good form early in the session. We also saw them running over the curbs a little bit, and they were one of the teams that were pinged for finding a bit of an advantage going out beyond, most particularly at turn 6 and the final corner, turn 16. 5 minutes until we get out onto the circuit, a bit less than that for the middle part of this qualifying session. There's the Porsche Cayman of Peter Terting, shared with Daniel Rhymes. We saw that up at about third position at one point. And it's sort of studied calm down in the in the pit lane as the crews just start to line it up, ready to go out again. And now the target time will come down. It was just over a quarter of a second between the fastest and the second fastest. And this is the Equipe Vachour McLaren. We saw that in the wars earlier. That was one that maybe gave a little bit of a tap to the Porsche that went round. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but depends who you talk to. I think the camera didn't lie. You want to see what it looks like on board the cockpit of these GT4 races. It has all the bits you need to go quickly, and you've got to go quickly by having some quick sunglasses too. Like the reflection in those. Thank you for modelling the McLaren for us. So as you can see, conditions warm and sunny, and certainly it's great to launch the GT4 series. This is the Nissan run by Walkinshaw Racing, John Walkinshaw Racing, and it's the only Nissan 370 in the race. Roman Sarazan and young British racer Charlie Fagg, who a couple of years ago was competing in Ginettas, so he started to make the step up the international order. So down from Durham in the northeast of England to come out here and play. In fact, I think it was this warm in Durham a couple of weeks ago. It was interesting spring. Dupont and Dumais, they were right at the sharp end last year in their Aston Martin, and again they have the most well, their team isn't called Street Art Racing for nothing. It does look as though they left it out overnight, and some people decided to give it a new livery, but they went very well last year, and in fact won the AM class. Jerome Dumais took the title in that. In fact, they have the lowest number. They have number 7 on their door, or being an Aston Martin, probably 007. The advantage, he and Dennis Dupont. Got to see what they can do. And now just a chance for some arty shots of the hills, not so far behind the circuit, here on the Adriatic coast, eastern coast of Italy. And it really does feel as though spring has sprung. At 2 more minutes, and then we will be at just under 2 minutes, and then we'll be back on the track. Maseratis, particularly with Scuderia Vioba course, out in strength. Some of the other drivers taking a look at them as they walk down the pit lane. Who named the championship this year? Romy Dalla Antonio. And the Vioba course cars tend to have a fairly similar livery, and likewise a lot of the KTM crossbows are dark with a lighter colours on the top. Oranges, yellows and whites, blues. Their distinctive netting around the driver to keep any debris out should there be an incident. But with this middle section of qualifying being only 10 minutes, it's all about getting the focus, getting the space out on the circuit, working the traffic, keeping calm, not going out, just pressing too hard. We've seen the drivers in every championship that have been out for qualifying just overcooking it slightly. It's about staying just within the limits of the car, which is never the easiest thing to do. And this one is the one shared by Stephanie Cox. That's a crossbow, number 84, showing it with Arnie Hofmeister, the German racer. See, for so long KTM was known for its motorbikes. It still is, but they branched over into car racing and making the crossbow a four-wheeled element. But as you can see by pit exit, it's the world of the Porsche Cayman Sport Performance. They've become the masters of running these sleek German races, and they certainly are very popular, very well balanced cars. And Pro Sport Performance was not only the team that fielded the overall champions in 2016, but the team that fielded the crew that finished third, and surprise, surprise, they ended up as the top team overall as the champions of 2016. Right, here we go. 15 minutes of action after that 10-minute break. It's underway. All seems quite quiet. The majority of these drivers, they were not the driver in the opening session. I think a couple of cars might have come in for a little changeover. It's all about these drivers now finding their limits and working the space out on the circuit. And McLaren went very well in the first session in the top 3. A couple of Porsche 911s, but most people have moved over to the Porsche Cayman body shape. So Maserati leading down into the hairpin, the 370Z Nissan, and then Porsche Cayman tucked in behind on third in that little sequence of cars as they go out, get some heat in their tyres, get some heat in their own brains about how best to deliver here in the Misano World Circuit, also known as World Circuit Marco Simoncelli in tribute to that great Italian motorbike racer who sadly died a handful of years ago at Sepang in 2012. The circuit looks great. 4.226 kilometres, 16 turns, and some of them are really pretty fast indeed. The run from turn 10, the Tramonto hairpin, all the way down to turn 13. It's a straight, but a straight with two kinks along it, if you understand. You've got to keep flat, and we've had a few people just getting it wrong, running wide, going out into the gravel outside turn 11, which is Curvone, or turn 12, and they pretty much then end up by turn 13 to give the marshals a chance to get their brooms out and stir it around. So who is going to come out on top this time around after the 10-minute break? First 15-minute section, 10 minutes of break, 15 minutes to come out and play. Don't forget their race starts, the first of their two races at Misano starts at 10 o'clock tonight, so running deep into the darkness. Number 92, Kevin Rossell, and I think Jan Kasperlik ran that in the first session. Relatively late entry. Very nicely prepared car from Pro Sport Performance. Yeah, uses about the right section of the curb through turn 2. They have to really clip the corner, likewise through turn 3, which is a left kink, and then it tightens up when they get up to this corner, the corner that is being approached right now. A little bit twitchy under braking for turn 4. We saw the sister car, 91, run out and ruin its lap between turn 4 and 5 on the outside. That was tidy. At turn 6, the left-hander there, this is the corner that so many drivers have been going out over the curbs. That's all right, that's 2 wheels on the curb. Get more than all 4 wheels beyond the white line on the outside of the circuit, and then the race stewards might want to have a little chat with you afterwards. So 92, actually it's Alessio Picariello, not Jan Kasperlik. We'll swap them around. But he is the driver, and he's a very handy driver indeed. And in practice, he was just outside the top 10. He seems to be racing it on his own this weekend. All the other cars seem to have 2 drivers. But we'll double check that for you. But right now, he's the first driver in the line. He's out there to see what sort of flying lap he can do. But just looking out the commentary box window, it's pretty busy out around the circuit. As I said, 33 cars, a sign of the success of the spread of the GT European Series. And don't forget, it's split. Oh, we've already got the Sin off again where it went off before. I don't know which of the Antons it is. Whichever was in the first session is not the one in the second, and the teammate and sibling has gone off at, I think, the same position. Will this bring out a red flag? Yes, it will. So the red flag is out just under 12 minutes of this 15-minute session, the second qualifying session for the GT4 European Series Northern Cup, and I'm afraid the red flags are out. So just as the drivers were getting the heat in their tyres, nobody had set a flying lap at that point. So very frustrating. They're all going to have to report back into the pit lane as the red flags are flying. And certainly, just looking at, there was the fastest first sector time of all had just been set by number 64. That's Mads Siljehaug in his KTM crossbow, shared with Jamie Vandenbolk. That's a very, very useful pairing. But anyhow, certainly Mads Siljehaug, who is the star in the car, thwarted somewhat, because that lap will count for nothing. That first sector of a lap counts for nothing. And the Misano rescue crew is very quick to get out and get deep in the gravel with their rescue tow, their tractor that should pull that Sin out. The only Sin in the race from Sin cars. Built in Britain, but it's a Bulgarian mark of car. And getting the publicity there, but they'd rather have their car going around the circuit and showing what it can do. But in the hands of 2 teenagers, Bianca Anton and her brother Edward, you know, they're very early in their racing careers, and they both learnt that the turn at 12, not much of a turn, but if you get it wrong, it's very easy to run wide, and both off in the same position. Car 82, looking at there, that was very early out onto the track. Jan Kasperlik sharing with Alessio Picariello. 94, one of the sister cars. It's also from Pro Sport Performance. Carsten Struer and Alessandro Giovanelli all being pushed very tidily into line, but they'd rather be out there on the circuit. And now I'm sure this car, the Sin, as it gets towed on, will get a little push over the outer curb. At Misano, the curbs are very, very flat. They're not crested as they are at most car racing circuits, because this one also clearly is a circuit that has a lot of motorbike racing. So it's very easy to go running out over the curbs and beyond. But beyond is a gravel trap, and therefore there will be gravel dripping out of the bottom of that car and dotting over the circuit. Hopefully most of it will be dropped out now as it's towed across the grass. There will be no damage to the splitter at the front. Grass not as even as a track, but they seem to be doing a decent job getting that away. But for number 11, that's probably the end of their session. The clock's still counting down. No, in fact, it's just stopped. 11:46. It started at. Red flag came out with 12 and a bit minutes remaining. But there go the marshals back on the track, sweeping away. Tricky corner, turn 12. Doesn't look like much of a corner when you approach it on a bike, when you're learning the circuit, but when you're coming in at full chat in a GT4 car, clearly, particularly for the Antons, it's a little bit tighter than they realised. Just session restart at 16:27, so just over a minute from now, just under a minute from now. So just as KTM get their cars all in a straight line, they'll be able, or in echelon formation, they'll have to go back out, but that's what we'd like. 11 minutes and 46 seconds remaining. Session restart at 16:27, which is 10 seconds from now. Who's going to come out on top? Don't forget this second qualifying session, we didn't get any flying laps in at all, but Mads Siljehaug in number 64 was looking very good indeed in his RYS, which is the Reiter Young Stars Team Internet X. He was the fastest of all in the first sector before the red flags were hung out and that lap was aborted. So out we go again, start all over. It was a 15-minute session, and just as we were about to get our first flying laps, red flag came out. Now with 11.5 minutes remaining, they're out to do it in earnest all over again. First race of their championship starts. It's a 1-hour race starting at 10 o'clock tonight at the Misano World Circuit. Conditions, if anything, continue to improve. Slightly cooler than it was earlier. The cloud burning off a little bit more. There's a bit more of a breeze, maybe helping a little bit. So the drivers, they had just done what they were supposed to do. They had just got out. They got the heat into their tyres, possibly into their brakes as well, ready to go for their first flying lap. And out came the red flag. Now we're doing it all over again. You can see the Academy Aston Martin weaving across circuit back and forth, a troop of Scuderia Vioba course Maseratis, the one and only Nissan 370Z, and Porsche Caymans and KTM crossbows as far as the eye can see. 33 cars showing the growth of the GT4 Euro Series, and this year, of course, split into two elements: the Northern Cup, which we're watching here, and the Southern Cup, which will start slightly later in the championship year. So not just getting tyres up to heat, driver up to, well, cooling them down, if anything. They're probably after sitting in the pit, so they've got a bit warm. It's about keeping their cool and making sure they've got space on the track in front of them to set these quick laps. That said, some of them get it running very, very close to each other. I think they've got to use their brain. 92 is the first one to start its flying lap. Nobody ahead of it, so this could work very well indeed for the 92 crew. Alessio Picariello, so an Italian driver who'd very much like to impress on home ground. He's got the best chance of all at the moment. As you can see, that Maserati getting so close to the two Porsches ahead of it. Got to decide, either I've got to get past them or I've got to drop back. But if he drops back, there are more Porsche Caymans. So he's picked off one into the first corner. He's slightly compromised his racing line, the line he's using for qualifying at that particular point. But in fact, the Porsche ahead of him looks pretty quick, so maybe that'll be all right for him. Number 88 Porsche, of course, that was the one we saw spinning over the curbs at the final corner. Got going again, but not only ruined its lap, but the one that followed as well, because clearly coming back off the curbs wouldn't have been any use at all. So it's Peter Ebner who spun it, and it's now Wolfgang Risch at the wheel of the 88. Porsche entered by HP Racing, Harry Prochik's team. Still waiting for that first flying lap to be completed. As I said, it will be Porsche Cayman number 92 should be the first one round. How is he faring on this lap? Alessio Picariello, well, he's got his personal best, a very good first sector time. He's got the fastest middle sector of all, so he's just got to complete his flying lap. He's in the final third of the lap right now. Shouldn't have traffic, should be all on his own, but he's just waiting to find where he is out on the circuit. But 88 is in the thick of traffic, that won't help. The driver on board that, Wolfgang Risch, and 92, I think, just went past to complete its lap, just waiting to see a time on screen. No, he hasn't. But look, these cars are running nose to tail as if in the race. One of them's got to really think about dropping out. And now we do have Alessio Picariello having set a flying lap because he's gone to the top of the charts, 1 minute 43.7. That's a handy lap. But expect the times to fall a lot more. Nikolai Moller-Madsen, his teammate for Pro Sport Performance, is second fastest, 0.6 of a second down. They've just been split as I speak by number 62, which is Academy Motorsport, Matt Nicol-Jones in his Aston Martin. Sorry, it's not. It's Willie Moore in the Aston Martin. Two cars coming very slowly. Oh, we've got a car off at turn number 8, deep in the gravel. It's gone all the way through the gravel. Looks like one of the Pro Sport Performance. No, sorry, it's not. It's a Maserati. I think that's 99, the Selite Racing Team. Maserati at the wheel of that is Lukas Zielski, Polish racer. He's really got that wrong quite late in the corner in many ways to get across there. I didn't see it as it happened. I just looked up and saw a puff of dust, and there was the car with its nose in the tyre wall on the outside. Red flag again. So just we had 16 cars set a flying lap, and there is the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. That was not one of them. That's Dennis Dupont, mixing the two drivers up together, reporting into the pit lane. So he didn't quite get to the end of the lap. The red flag was out and they had to report into the pit lane. So increasing frustration for the drivers, the second drivers. The first lot had their run. Second lot have had 2 red flags in their 15-minute session. And the clock is stopped. Is not. It's still going down. 6.5 minutes remain. The tractor is in position to tow that stricken Maserati out of the gravel, but it's going to take a short while because they've got to get the car far enough back out of the tyre wall. Whole host of rescue workers working on it so that they can get the tractor hooked up in a position to pull it away. Number 69, Porsche Cayman. That's the Terting Muskens Racing entry of Daniel Rhymes and Peter Terting. And that's already back in the garage. That means, therefore, it probably didn't, with Daniel Rhymes on board, set a flying lap. So a lot of these drivers didn't quite do it before the first red flag. A few got it done before the second red flag, roughly half the field. And for a lot of them, it's really starting to ramp the pressure up because, look, the clock is still ticking down. The clock stops not for this red flag. And they have to hope that that Maserati can be towed away from its stricken position, or we may not get to the end of the qualifying session with another green flag moment for them to get out and set their times. We talked to Romain Sarazan and Charlie Fagg. They're racing at Sean Walkinshaw Racing 370Z, but a frustrating session for them, as it is for all the other 32 runners affected by the 99 Maserati sitting against the tyre wall on the exit of turn 8, which is the Quercia hairpin. Every now and again you find a car in a position you didn't quite expect to see it, and I think that particular one is, because a lot of drivers, if you get it wrong into a chicane, either get it wrong completely on the way in. He's got it wrong halfway round the corner. And I'm afraid for Lukas Zielski, embarrassment as well as just sheer frustration. So for the crews, they've got to keep their drivers under control, keep them calm. This is Équipe for sure, McLaren 570Z of Finlay Hutchison, Scottish racer, and Jaber Moore, racer from Hungary. And for a lot of these crews, they just want to get back out onto the circuit. 5 minutes and 7. The clock has now stopped. Session will probably resume very shortly. We're just waiting. The car is still now being hooked up, the stricken Maserati. So frustration for all involved, but the best time on the board set just before that happened by Alessio Picariello, number 92 Pro Sport Performance Porsche Cayman. 1 minute 43.708. As you can see, that Maserati sitting there, the driver, it would have been a very low impact. Speed driver standing to the right, he'll just be frustrated, probably keeping his helmet on to keep those emotions in check, or keep them at least private. But as you can see, the marshals need to get that car away from the tyre wall a bit more so that rescue tractor can pull it clear. So looking at some, well, here's the replay on the way in, just a complete lock-up, and then he gets on the shiny stuff, which is the paint on the outside, and the Selite Racing Maserati. You can see how the gravel slows it down. It actually did go in relatively hard. The gravel slowed it, but only a modicum. But it was he just had lost control by the time after that lock-up. He couldn't get the nose turned in, with the front wheels just skidding on. The car is now moving. That's good to see. They've got the nose away from the tyre wall. I'm just looking to see where they can find a little gap, if there is one. I think there's one just behind them. And hopefully they can get that car out behind the tyre wall, and we can go out for the final 5 minutes. For all the drivers in this GT4 European Series Northern Cup opening round here at Misano. Their focus is not just on this final qualifying session, it's also on the fact their first race of the season starts at 10 o'clock tonight, after dark. Thumbs up for some and certainly thumbs down from others, because it's been a very frustrating second qualifying session. 5 minutes and 7 more of this qualifying session to go, and hopefully we'll see no more red flags. Aston Martin, not too many of those in the field, just the two. That's the one from Academy Racing, number 62. Will Moore had just set the second fastest time in that, sharing his car with Matt Nicol-Jones. And the number 7 Aston Martin of Street Art Racing didn't get a flying lap in, but that was looking quite good for a quick lap too, with Dennis Dupont at the wheel, sharing with last year's AM champion, which was Jerome Demey. So plenty of car variety, 33 cars in all, as they continue to tow away the Maserati. They found another gap in the tyre wall to put it through, so hopefully that'll be out of the way in the next minute or so, and then we can go out again for the final sector, if you will, of the final sector, which is 5 minutes and 7 of qualifying time. The crew's already communicating with their drivers. They think they're probably having a look, got people reporting where the stricken car is, and it's almost behind the barriers now. So time to get out towards pit exit. This is going to be super busy. Do you hang back, or you just try and work your track position? Therein comes the pressure, but of course this has bunched them up even more than at the start of the session overall. So we have more than 30 cars going out to play. We have to see if that Sin can get back going again, because that went off early in the session. Both of the Anton siblings, sister and brother, have gone off at turn 12. Maserati is nearly out of the way, out on the circuit, but as you can see, session has restarted as they just tucked the Maserati behind the wall between turns 8 and 9. And the field will go back out, and who's going to end up as a quick one? The Pro Sport Cayman's always looking strong. 92 is the fastest of all at the moment. 91 is third fastest, so it's Alessio Picariello, the Aston Martin of Nigel Moore, and then the other one of the fastest front-running Pro Sport performance Cayman's in third place, Jörg Wiebahn. Fourth fastest at the moment, car number 54. That is Brett Sandberg over from the States, racing his KTM Crossbow for RYS Team Pankel with Benjamin Mazatis, German racer. So it's about staying calm, not overcooking it. 3 minutes and 45 seconds remaining before the checkered flag will be unfurled. Hopefully that will be the next flag we see. No more red flags, thank you. So all over once more, my friends, out there, put some heat into your tyres. You can see them doing precisely that, knowing this is a lap where they want to build up their speed towards the end of the lap to really let fly across the start-finish line. Well, in fact, through turn 16, so maximum speed that they can achieve across the start-finish line. And then you've got the tight right-hander at turn 1, into the tight left at turn 2, and so it goes. A fiddly first few corners, and then it starts to open out from turn 6 onwards. Looking at one of the two Ecris entries in this race, the BMW body shape, and they're certainly expected to be right up at the sharp end. But Pro Sport Performance, that car was third fastest in the shortened session. They've got lots of clear track ahead of him. It's Jörg Wiebahn at the wheel, one of last year's joint overall champions with Peter Terting. They're not together, they're both racing Caymans again this year, but for different teams. But for Jörg Wiebahn, he's staying on board. Number 8, Ecris, BMW M4, Ricardo van der Ende and Max Kobold, the pairing in that, and it's Max at the wheel at the moment. 92, they were fastest overall before the session was stopped for a second time. Alessio Picariello, his best time so far, 1 minute 43.708 seconds. I'm sure that can be bettered. Well, I hope it can, but they've just got to be sure they can get the heat into their tyres. The best time in free practice, 1 minute 44.2 seconds, so they're half a second under that, and I really feel with a couple of laps that they can achieve just before the checkered flag comes out, we might see that push down. 92 appears to have the gift of free track. They're the fastest on the circuit, or were. In fact, the fastest on the circuit is their teammate, number 91, but the Pro Sport Performance crew, perhaps by having their garages up by pit exit or adopting that garage area, they seem to be first out onto the circuit. This could be a big advantage for them. But that said, a lot of the others are now spacing themselves out to give themselves a chance to set their very best time. We're into the final 2 minutes before the checkered flag comes out, waiting for the first of the flying laps in this sector of the qualifying group. And everybody behaving so far. A lot of green times on the screen. That means personal bests in the first 2 sectors of this 3-sector lap, the classic 3-sector lap. Number 92 comes up to cross the start-finish line. That was its outlap. Now we want to see what it can achieve. 1 minute 44, its first flying lap, I beg its pardon. Of course, it did the outlap. So 0.4 of a second down on the ultimate. But now with the heat in the tyres and still with the clear track ahead of it, you have to say Alessio Picariello has got a very good chance indeed. Will Moore in the number 62 Aston Martin sits third on the timesheet. It was second, and just as I said, it pushed back to third because Jörg Wiebahn has found an improvement. Now he's just under 1/4 of a second down on the ultimate pace, and almost exactly the same amount ahead of Nigel Moore's Aston Martin. But Nigel has had not his best middle sector. This could cost him. He's had his best first sector. Being blocked just before the end of the lap would not have helped. Here's turn 16. Can he fight back and go back up into second position, just waiting for him to cross the start-finish line? No, he's done better than that. He's gone top by 0.048 of a second. So it's Aston Martin from 2 Porsche Caymans. Car number 76, which is the Auto Orlando Sport Porsche 911. Different body shape, of course, in 4th fastest. He's just done his best lap. Top 4 cars covered by 0.63 of a second. Now it's even closer at the top, 0.042 of a second, 42 1,000ths, and that's changed, as I mentioned it. 34 has got in the mix. It's Nigel Moore now top by 0.006 of a second, but that has changed. Moore in the flash, the blink of an eye. I'll tell you why, he's just suddenly fallen down the order. He's just had his time confiscated. So Will Moore back now into 5th place. Top of the charts is car number 30, which is on top by 36 1,000ths, and car number 30 is the CD Sport Porsche Cayman. Second at the moment, car number 34, which is Johnny Cecotto and Nenad Marianek in their KTM Crossbow. Marianek at the wheel at the moment. Checkered flag is out. The clock has ticked to the top, but they're still on their final flying laps. 1 minute 43.666 seconds is the best time from the number 30 crew. Who will top it? There is that checkered flag being waved. Jörg Wiebahn has had his best shot. 91 did not improve at the end, so he is 4th. Alessio Picariello, his teammate, is 3rd in 92, but number 30 and 34, we've had one of the McLarens. That's the Las Maras Racing team. No, it's not. It's the Equipe Vecheur McLaren. Is off at the side of the circuit. He hasn't made it towards the end of qualifying. It's parked actually just on the rise, the gentle rise out of turn 8 on the run to turn 9. Easily visible from those behind. Shouldn't compromise them. 1 minute 43.66 seconds. It's Morgan Moulin-Trafort who set that time. It looks so it's going to be good for pole position. There is the sign Moulin-Trafort. Looks as though he's got the job done. What a difficult session, because Nigel Moore has put his Academy Aston Martin back into second place, but he's 33 1,000ths behind. Does Moulin-Trafort improve on the final? Yep, yes he does. 0.410 of a second clear. The next two are covered by just 3 1,000ths. So suddenly, in what was a very difficult qualifying session, Morgan Moulin-Trafort really stuck it together. Late signing in place of Mike Parisi to join Benjamin Risi for CD Sport, but their Porsche Cayman is top of the table. Nigel Moore had his best lap taken away, then did a better lap later anyhow, comes second in qualifying, but in fact his time is now, oh dearie me, car number 24 has just had its time taken away, and the timing screen has changed, and now Nigel Moore in the Academy Aston Martin has gone to the top of the charts, and I think it must mean that Moulin-Trafort has had his best time taken away. Let's have a look. So yes, it's Matt Nicol-Jones and Will Moore right at the end. 3 1,000ths of a second ahead of Johnny Cecotto, Nenad Marianek. Rossel and Picariello and Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Moller-Madsen, the Caymans 3rd and 4th. Mengozzi and Jezzi in 5th. Mazatis and Sandberg in the KTM Crossbow in 6th. And the top 8 cars covered by less than a second. Very tight, very tricky qualifying position with 2 red flags. But at the end of it all, after a lot of fiddling around, it's the Aston Martin of Academy Motorsport at the very top of the tree. And as you can see, we had 6 crews that either didn't set a time or had their times all taken away for going too wide too often. And that's it. That's goodbye from now.